I lost you.
No, it's because it's starting the meeting. Hopefully I'm back.
1 sec. Could you okay, the presentation, could you share the presentation of the last the last time or not?
Okay, I'm gonna share again.
Or if you can
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can see my screen. Can you all, can someone tell me if they can see their screen, please? The speakers mainly, as they are the ones that can open their mic.
We saw it before, but now it's not there anymore.
Okay, I will reshare it then while the people join. Please, Maria or Deborah, can you allow people in while I cover? I'm trying to do this again. Okay. Let's see. Sharing again. And now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So welcome everyone. I know that some people are still joining, but we have already given a few minutes for people to join, so we will start now. Welcome to the Inclusive Spaces webinar, Continuing the Legacy. I'm Lydia Buenavida, Project Manager at TEACCOST, and I will be the moderator of this webinar today. The continuing the legacy, which legacy are we talking about? So we will hear from 3 different projects, the INDIMO project, the TEACCOST Action, and the MARES project that have very relevant outputs and results that we in the Inclusive Spaces project have taken over, and we wish to continue and make it grow. As you can probably see when you enter, we are going to be recording the webinar today because we would like to share it in our webpage for people that were not able to be here today. So please have that in mind. I'm going to now cover the agenda. So as mentioned, we will have 3 projects, but first we will start with the Inclusive Spaces 1. This is the one that is continuing the legacy. Floridea Di Chiomo will be presenting that. She's the director of Cambiamo, followed by Kati Bulanowski. She's project manager at European Passenger Federation, and she will present the INDIMO project, talking about the inclusive digital mobility solutions. Then we have the TEACCOST Action, presented also by Floridea, in talking a bit about the equity in transport evaluation and digital mobility inclusion. Then we have the MARES project presented by Miguel Jainik. I'm sorry for the pronunciation of the surname. PhD architect at Vivero de Iniciativas Ciudadanas, and he will talk a bit about the sustainable ecosystem, best practices, and resilience via design for all approach. And last but not least, we will talk a bit how the Inclusive Spaces will bring all of these results from this project forward. That will be also a bit moderated by Floridea. And finally, we will have the Q&A. Throughout the webinar, you are free to use the Q&A section in Teams to post any questions. We will answer all of them at the end, but again, as I mentioned, you can post any questions there throughout the webinar. So if a question pops out during a presentation, please write it in the Q&A section. Okay, with that being said, I would like to give the floor to Floridea to present the Inclusive Spaces project overview.
Yes, can I ask you, Lydia, please to share the screen with the presentation of the overview, because I experiment some issues here.
Yes,
sorry.
give me no problem. I
Thank you
think.
very much. And I can start to talk about the Inclusive Space overview. Okay, the Inclusive Space project is a project related with the that is part of the Build for People platform, and the main objectives is to realize the inclusive design, monitoring, evaluation of urban space. This is very related to the new European Bauhaus as well, and we are a bunch of organizations, including some research organization, but as well a private organization and a non-profit organization that are working for considering the for expanding the inclusiveness of mobility as well as the urban space to all different target groups, including people with disabilities. And when we talk about disabilities in inclusive space, we include all kinds of disabilities, from mental, cognitive, physical, sensorial, etc. And as well, the inclusive space project as like an intersectional approach. So we consider when people, target groups, when we have a different origin of a problem that we can have together. So this is a little bit what we have. Where we are now, it's the project started last May, and we had we already finished the first year of the of our inclusive.
Is it my connection? Or did we lose Floridea? Or is it my?
No, exactly. It's fine.
I think I lost you for a bit, but now you are back, if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry.
So yes, no, please
yeah,
continue.
they have some
yes.
problem of internet today here in the office, so it's for that that I kindly asked you to share the screen. I'm sorry for that. I apologize for that. So what I was saying that we went already, we organized the community of practices, and the people that maybe know Cambiamo, you know that Cambiamo is working with the community of practices approach since different European projects, and then during this next my colleagues from other organizations and talking about other projects that are related with the inclusive space, we can make reference as well to that. And but this time the community of practices where this is a peer-to-peer exchange of knowledge. This time we had people living with disabilities who were part of the community of practices, and this is I think that it's a key point of the inclusive space project. That we completely don't want to exploit the results of people, but what we would like to do is that people living with disability directly tell us what their needs. And as well, we have people with disability on the side of the offer of the technical assistive assistive technologies. In this way, there is like a really big communality between the needs and the who are the people who can cover these needs, and more an empathic an empathic bridge between these two words, we can say. So next slide. This is just to say about the who are the pilots. That we have 6 pilot cities in Madrid, Geneva, Hamburg, Budapest, Athens, and Larnaca. And in this and each pilot in general includes different organizations locally based, and this is as well as a strength point for inclusive space. Each partner is not never alone locally, but as well in a more global way. The next slide, please. This is a little bit a flare of the key innovations that we have in the inclusive space with the accessibility routing, accessibility mapping, mobility station kiosk, inclusive upright tricycle, and then accessibility design evaluation, universal design manual. Maybe some of you already knows that we worked in other project on the universal design manual for digital mobility solutions. This is a step, we put a step forward, the universal design manual, including both more physical and as well the urban spaces. Next slide, please. And then what we have in each work package. The first work package is really for setting the scene, so to conduct a comprehensive review of critical analysis of current accessibility related practices and all the international regulation. The mobility urban space is a space where human rights need to enter there. We need to recognize people with disabilities as or with the gender, women and girls in all their diversities, with with the right to have a safe and accessible space. So this is a little bit what we worked on the regulation aspects. There is a lot of regulation, but most of the time this regulation are not implemented. So we need really to do a step back and to implement the regulation at the beginning. It is not so useful if we do the infrastructure, we regulate the urban space, and then we ask it to do an impact assessment. We need to do this impact assessment before and with people who really needs to be safe in the space or to access to this space. Next slide, please. And this was done with all the we had all these deliverables that we finalized during these days, and will be ready at the end of this month, and then will be published in our site. So we really like to invite you to follow the Inclusive Space website that is very lively organized by our colleague from Ertico, and where different posts are included, but as well in sometimes different deliverables when they will be approved by our project officer and CINEA office. They will be as well available for to be used for your work on the ground or in research or for defining more inclusive solutions. Next slide, please. Work package 2 is really we go on the solutions, and we are in the more on the digital side of solution, and as well on the empathy and to check what are the key elements for creating this empathy between all the target groups of people, and in this way to go identify the areas that are of concern for people in vulnerable situations. So this is as well that we need to create this bridge, like I said at the beginning, between different target groups and with a kind of a universal approach. If we are universal, we can be include all the we really include all the needs of people in vulnerable people in vulnerable situation. Next slide, please. This is a little bit an idea of the work that is done in these applications, and I would like to highlight as well the fact that disabilities is not like a we don't have a table of disabilities. What we have is a lot of, we have the recognized disability, but then what we understood from, especially from the community of practices in Madrid, that there are other aspects that were not so defined like disabilities, but are some impairment for people for using the space. For example, agoraphobia, this is something that we need to consider when we design the streets, when we design the place, when we design the squares. Next slide, please. Work package 3 as well is very related on the ground, and we have this technology, assisted technology that are as well climate friendly. I would like to stress the fact that Inclusive Space is a project related to new European Bauhaus. So this is the climate change, and it's a key point as well, how to define how we can define the tools for making the climate change policies really inclusive, as well in respect to the resilience aspects. Next slide, please. And I think that we can go ahead, and I think that the people can go more on the website. Here we have as well a flare of what are the assistive technology that we are talking about. We have as part, and really an important part of Inclusive Space is to work on the edge between indoor and outdoor. And in this way, it's important as well to fix, we have this assistive technology based on sensors that are in indoor, but as well outdoor assistive technology based on sensors that are outdoor. So we are on that, and then we have the bikes. We have the mobility kiosk where people with living with disabilities and who needs a wheelchair, they can leave their a wheelchair, for example, for going to the sea. I mean, we should a little bit go out from this idea that mobility is something that we need to take care only for going to the work, but we need to enlarge and to consider the mobility of caring, the mobility for going to the beach, the mobility for going to the supermarket, the mobility for going for accompanying a person to children to school, etc. So this is really the focus that we have in Inclusive Space. Next slide, and then we will maybe I leave the floor to our colleagues. This is once again a little bit more information about the pilots that we have, the demonstration that we start in month 13 after we finish the setting of the scene. Next slide, please. These are the cities, Penteli, that is part of the area of Athens, Geneva, Madrid, Larnaca, Hamburg, and Budapest. And here is a little bit where we are with which kind of tools will be tested in which kind of city. We will already have a lot of information about from the COPs, from the interviews about how these cities, what are the challenges, what are the drivers for codes for it, and how we co-design it. We co-design this assistive technology in a real meaningful way. Next slide, please. I think that we can, we have the recommendation, of course. This is something that will happen a little bit later, but it will be very important to consider, especially the impact assessment framework. But in this first year, we already defined the KPI that we use like for the baseline, and then we will go back to the ground to see how this, if some effect happen with our with our interventions, and that's all. I think that
Yes, thank you, Floridea, for a very comprehensive overview of the project. So as you mentioned, we have set the ground for the work that will be developed now on these tools that you showcased. And for setting the ground, of course, there was research, but there was also collection of inputs from diverse groups and from different projects. And one of the projects that also has relevance as we are continuing the legacy and bringing it from different ones. The first one will be the INDIMO project. And Katie, I would like to give you the floor to present it. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so my name is Katie Bolanowski. I'm a project manager at the European Passengers Federation, and I have the pleasure of explaining a little bit about the INDIMO project, which relates to inclusive digital mobility solutions. A brief overview of the project. It ran from January 2020 to December 2022. It was coordinated by VUB, the University in Brussels, and you'll notice that a few of the partners in InclusiveSpaces were also involved in the INDIMO project, Cambiamo, EPF, where I'm from, MBE, and also Vic, who's another speaker today. A brief word on the general project objectives. As I said, it was really focusing on digital mobility services. So there, the idea was to firstly improve the understanding of users' needs, understand the barriers that people face in accessing or using digital services, translating those into requirements that they have, and also co-creating tools that can help the engineers, the developers, the operators, and the policymakers to create more inclusive and accessible transport systems. Additionally, we focused on universal design and also on the policy and how to use the results in additional work. Another brief word on the different users' characteristics that we looked at within the project. Of course, they're very wide, as you can see, but you'll notice that we were working with people who had a lower income, people who were living in rural areas, ethnic minorities, people with disabilities, which again, this is a group that can be also very diverse in itself. People lacking digital skills. And we also worked with users and non-users of these services to, again, understand the barriers that they face and also the needs and requirements that they have in relation to their mobility. The project itself was really focused on this concept of universal design applied to the digital mobility space. And we also proposed two additional elements. The first one being cybersecurity, and the second one being the intersectionality of social, spatial, and economic dimensions, because we found that those are very important to consider when you're developing inclusive and accessible services. And you'll also notice this outer circle. We've had 4 key stakeholder groups that we worked with throughout the project. The first, as I said, being citizens, so the people who are actually utilizing these services, but also the developers who are developing and engineering them, the operators who are operating them, and of course also the policymakers who can create guidelines or enforce regulations around such services. Within the project, we also had, similar to InclusiveSpaces, we had 5 pilot projects, which were all different cities, focusing on different contexts, different user groups with different characteristics. And there we were really co-creating with them to either design or redesign a service in their city, but also to co-create the INDIMO toolbox, which I'll mention in my next slide. And there, just to name a few, you'll see, for example, in Berlin, we were working with women who were often caregivers. Some of them might have lacked digital skills, and we were really working with them to understand the needs, the barriers that they face in relation to services in their city, but really focusing on an on-demand ride-sharing app. In Antwerp, for example, we were looking at inclusive smart traffic lights, and we were co-developing or co-designing these tools with people who had visual impairments, also elderly people. So again, each pilot had a different context, but they all really aimed to understand the needs that different people with different characteristics have. And as I said, co-creation was a big part of the INDIMO project, similar to InclusiveSpaces. And there, one of the key results, which is really nice, and I really recommend you going to the INDIMO website to look at it, is the INDIMO Toolbox, which is a set of 5 very interactive tools with the aim of improving or creating, designing inclusive and accessible digital mobility services. So it is one of the main outcomes. And if you go on the website and you look at these different tools, they're in 6 different languages. So not only English, but also other languages like Dutch, French, German, Italian, Spanish. And they're very interactive. So they really give you some hands-on tools that you can use to design your services. The most relevant, I would say, for the InclusiveSpaces project is the Universal Design Manual, which supports the inclusive design of interfaces that are better tailored to citizens' needs. And within the InclusiveSpaces projects, we're going to use this approach and build on it in relation to the built environment. We also have the UIL, which was about the different icons in digital mobility services. So the idea there is to improve the non-textual communication of these applications with regards to, for example, language, cultural, physical, or cognitive barriers, because those can really influence a person's understanding and how these different icons are understood. Then we have cybersecurity and privacy assessment guidelines. Again, we're talking about digital services, so that's very important. And then we also have a set of recommendations, which kind of brings together all of these different recommendations from the different tools as we were co-designing them. And then finally, we also have this service evaluation tool, which is for someone who would like to evaluate a digital mobility solution in terms of its compliance with the other principles of the toolbox. So for example, how it complies with universal design principles and how it complies, or how the service design is implemented, that sort of thing. So again, some really nice tools, very interesting learnings from the project that we are carrying with us to InclusiveSpaces. And I would like to thank you for your attention. And I really recommend going on the website as well on INDIMO and seeing if you can utilize those tools as well for any of your projects, because they're very useful, I think.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, I have put it in the chat, the link to the toolbox, so please check it out. A very interesting presentation of the INDIMO project, and of course a lot of outputs that we will continue in the project, but also, as you mentioned, other projects or other researchers, experts can use in their own work. Then if Floridea can share her screen, I would like to ask her to share some insights on the TEACCOST action. So please, Floridea, I give you the floor back.
Yes, actually, I tried to share the screen, but really my connection today is a little bit complex. But I will share it, and I will try to do it. I don't know if it is possible to see that. This is the still the TEACCOST Action website that is still in life, and this is important because it's the TEACCOST Action, that is transport and equity analysis cost action. It was like a first project completely related to equity. I think that you are not able to see my screen.
No, unfortunately.
Okay, I can talk and then I can put the link in the chat. I'm really sorry for this problem that I had. We did the test before that it was working, but now I don't know what happened. So I put here in the chat the TEACCOST action, and as well I will provide you more feedback. So the transport equity cost action was born. Was the origin of this project was the idea that transport is a part of our welfare, our well-being, and in some way we needed to evaluate the information that the impact that we have in terms of social aspect of the transport infrastructure and transport services. We started to work in this cost action. I don't know how much are you familiar with the tool of cost action, the cost action that are the way to do networking among the researchers working on a specific topic. In this case was equity in transport poverty, intersectionalities, and so on. And we create a critical mass of senior, young, and junior researchers, intern, trainees that we can in some way work that started to work on equity in transport. And this was done through two main schools, one in Thessalonica, another one in Barcelona, and still the PhD students and master students who participate to this training school are now most of them researchers in equity in transport. This is really this is very a key result of the cost action. What the cost action was more focused on one of the tenets of the justice, that is the distributional justice. So to analyze the distribution between goods and bads and the impacts that have the good and bads produced by the transport on different target groups. Two main publications have been done. Different publication and articles have been done related to the cost action, and you can go on the site and you can see them related between equity and climate justice, between transport poverty and equity, health and transport and equity. But then two main collection of articles are there that can be easily read it, and if you don't have access, please send to Cambiamo email and we will provide you access. One is the measuring equity in transport. That is a book co-edited by Karen Lucas, Karen Martens, Ariane Dupont, and myself. And the other one is special issues on transport equity, co-edited by Joran Shiftan and myself in Transport Review, the journal. So this are the information, but more information are included in the website. And I leave the floor to you because I already talked too much. Thank you.
Thank you, Floridea. So as mentioned, she has put the website in the chat. Very interesting publications. I was having a look in the meantime, so have a look at that. And with that, we will continue with our last project. Of course, not the least important, but the last on our agenda today, and that's the MARES project. So, Miguel, the floor is yours. Please go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, so can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So MARES Madrid, it's a UEA project, Urban Innovative Actions. It begins in 2016 and in 2019, and the consortium was composed by mainly cooperatives. in Madrid. The background of the project is that the economic area of the municipality of Madrid noticed that during the last crisis, or one of the last crises, which was 2010, most of the regular companies, they faced the crisis by expulsing people from the labor market or expulsing people from their companies. So the unemployment rate increased a lot during the crisis. But they noticed that there is a certain economy, which is called social economy, which was very resilient at that time, because these cooperatives were searching for different solutions and answers to the crisis, such as working less or share the hours or educate themselves. So they somehow keep those jobs. And that's why they wanted to explore the social economy sphere in Madrid in order to create new jobs. Also, the new jobs were focused on the vulnerable, let's say, territories in Madrid, which is the periphery, where people have low incomes and they have digital barriers and they have low education and also less salaries. So instead of trying to look for a job in a company, the project aims to create a new cooperatives by self-employment, collective self-employment. So it was an innovative project of urban transformation through the social and solidarity economy. So the key concept is urban transformation because we choose different unused buildings in the city of Madrid, mainly in the periphery. And we create like sectorial hubs to create new jobs in form of cooperative or associations, rather than looking for a job or the entrepreneur, like we see the entrepreneur like Elon Musk or Zuckerberg, like one people which is creating a huge company. This is more like collective union of people doing an innovative project in their areas. So the main sectors, we choose different sectors which were key sectors and very relevant sectors in the economy, because usually here in Spain, at least, cooperatives work in very peripheric sectors like communications or web developments or maybe social aid. But we wanted to create these jobs in the main and relevant sectors like mobility, food, cares, recycling, and energy. So that's the word mares, which means seas in Spanish. Mares is M for mobility, A for food, alimentación, R for recycling, E for energy, and S, it was the caring, which was transversal to all the different sectors. As I said before, 4 different buildings were refurbished in the project, and each building was like a sectorial hub, like one relevant sector hub for the whole city. And we wanted to create like the specific building and the specific equipment that each sector needs. So, for example, for food, we create an industrial kitchen in order to let the kitchen to the associations and cooperatives to, let's say, try different recipes, different catering options, and let's say start growing their business in order to offer to the market their services. Or, for example, recycling or mobility with bicycles and bici cargos and all that stuff. The 4 buildings were already existing, but unused or abandoned. So a lot of money went to the refurbishment of those spaces. And those spaces were really sensible for caring. Like, for example, there was like spaces for co-working, spaces for elderly people and children, also renewable energies, sustainable mobility in order to get there. So I'm going to explain just 3 points of the project. The first one was the Citizen Skill Laboratory. So we look for a channel in order to, let's say, explode the potential of the people, the human capital in Madrid. So we started at that time with different, let's say, laboratories and dynamics in order to identify possible businesses and possible ideas which were related with social needs or territorial needs or sectorial needs. And we wanted to join the existing companies in the territory with these citizen initiatives and also with the proposals. So in each sector, we started to investigate which were the, let's say, opportunities in order to create these new jobs and these new cooperatives, mainly in cares, but also in energy or recycling, and ask the people for their ideas to check if they could create some new jobs or new companies in their areas in order to give an answer to those requirements. We generate those maps with the different opportunities in each area, and that map also reflects how the potential economic and production tissue were established and how can they collaborate with existing companies. We also made an investigation on the value change in order to not only work with these potential companies, but also to check all the value change, their providers, their clients, and how can we change things in all the chain, giving a social economy alternative to the main market. The other main output was the practice-oriented learning communities, the communities of practice. As Florida says before, this one of the first projects that we started working with the communities of practice. And the background is we have to go beyond the traditional education or the traditional formation, which is a teacher talking to different people in an unilateral way. And the community of practice is joining different expertise and different knowledge of people all together and sharing their knowledge, sharing their practices and their experience in order to create a transversal and universal knowledge for everyone. So we started to create like the steering groups and then different periphery groups and active groups. It was related with the level of implication of each people in the community, and how could we identify and let's say working with these communities during 2.5 years in order to consolidate the community to work by themselves and also to emancipate beyond the end of the project. We create a very different communities of practices. Some of them were, let's say, aimed to a productive line. Some of them were oriented to knowledge or just empowering people. The most vulnerable people were empowered by these communities, like family care or co-responsibility. And we tried very hard at the end of the project to create some outputs, some final products from each community in order to fix the information and the knowledge of that process. So just showing some drawings of different communities like bici cargos and this cyclo-bike new vehicles and delivering last mile production, the different, let's say, mobility options that were in the city at that time, and also different maps of the new mobility systems as moto sharing or car sharing or carpooling, or even the well, the transport, public transportation. And at the end, we try to analyze all the new, let's say, modes, new sorts of mobility and production in the city, especially the last mile and the new logistics. And just to finish the intervention, some pictures of the different spaces that we create at that project, with the co-working and all the spaces that were open to the people in order to create those cooperatives and those jobs. So people had the chance to, let's say, cover the Death Valley. The Death Valley means like the first 2 or 3 years of a company, where people has to take care mainly on these ideas, or they're competitive, not by the labor or normative issues or the space where they work or their first expenses. So the project provide the new companies this kind of spaces and the internet, the meeting spaces, and also different programs and let's say activities by experts on each sector. So people could have this first need covered by the project. This is the food building, where it was very related to the area. It was an open space for the people in that area. And you see the co-working with all these new companies working on the first steps of their proposal. This is the industrial kitchen in the food hub, which was totally conformed by the normative, and it worked as a food innovation lab. And also the terrace of the building, which was covered by solar panels in order to get some renewable energies, and also urban gardens in the cover. So that's it. Please check the webpage, and in the internet there is more information. And if you have some questions, we can talk later on.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you for the presentation. Very nice, and also very nice pictures of the spaces that were created throughout the project. So I think it is very clear that there is a thread connecting all of the projects that we have seen, and that's inclusivity. We talk about inclusive methodologies, inclusive tools, inclusive infrastructure, as well as employment, and at the end of the day, inclusive spaces for everyone. With that, I would like to give the floor to Floridea, because we are not reinventing the wheel. We want to bring all of this work that has been developed in other projects that have taken great steps towards inclusivity to our own Inclusive Spaces project. So please, Floridea, tell us a bit more.
Yeah. Actually, I think that I will not take too much time to leave as well the floor to our participants. And I think that there is 3 main points that I would like to highlight it, and they are the legacy that we took from the 3 projects that we are coming from. The first one is the framework of the justice, equity, and the well-being that is related with the mobility, with the urban space. They are traditionally they are like an engineering-oriented space where there is a lot of technicity considered, but less the ambition and needs of people, and especially people in a vulnerable situation, including people living with disabilities, elderly, and women and girls in all their diversity. So it's this was a little bit the legacy from TEACCOST Action. We need to go in with an equity tool impact assessment everywhere for every mobility infrastructure urban infrastructure and mobility services. This is like the first point. And as well, I think that something that is very relevant it is that transport equity analysis cost action had the privilege to account on a bunch of PhD students and master students who were so interested and motivated in working on this side of the story of the mobility and urban space. And then geographer, engineering, a social scientist, philosopher, economics, all of them were there. And the training school that we had were very important for creating this kind of community working together in transport and equity. Of course, the starting point was more on the distributional aspect, so goods and beds distribution, and then we were going more on the other aspect of the justice, more related with the recognition of different target groups. And this is where INDIMO provide us a huge reference. I mean, in INDIMO, 6 different intersectional profiles were co-created within the community of practices with the interviews, and provide us the possibility to understand that when we need to work on mobility and on digital mobility, we need to think about the needs of this intersectional profile of people. And this was the first time where the word of rights came out, and as well the mobility of caring, of a woman, single mom with children were one of the key profile as well considered. And this is something that we need not leave behind. We really need to consider all this intersectionality. So for target groups definition and what are the main needs that we need to consider. INDIMO, I think that is the wonderful project for that, and was really different people were institution co-worked together for that. And then for Mares is like the space, give us the space, give us the concrete, the real things on the ground, like Miguel showed in the picture. We create spaces. Of course, Cambiamo has a smaller role there, like a co-leader of the mobility C, we can say, the mobilidad. But there what we learn there, what we take out like legacy is first of all the definition of the use of the community of practices processes. Like we said, we shift from an expert to an end user framework of sharing knowledge, and we go to a peer-to-peer sharing knowledge. And then this is like the tools that we continue to use around the project where we are involved for inclusiveness. And as well, the key aspect is that we can act on real infrastructure and we can do things. It's not, we are not only on the research, we are not only on the advocacy, on the political incidents, we are on the ground and we construct. So this is, I think, that the 3 main points that I would like to offer to our audience and our public. I hope that we can have more feedback from them, and happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Floridea. So with that, indeed, thank you for giving the time and space for the Q&A section of the webinar. So now I would like to invite everyone to either write down their questions, thoughts, or experiences in the Q&A section, or if you want, you can also raise your hand and I can give you the mic. I think for now there were no questions in the Q&A, but please don't be shy. Even if you want, you can share your experience on this, maybe on a project that you have worked on, etc. So just please go ahead, raise your hand or write it in the chat. I think in the meantime, I can even allow the mic so that everyone can speak if they would like to. And if there are no questions, maybe we can come up with our own ones. I don't know if the speakers would like to share something else that they didn't get the chance to share during their presentations, as we didn't have maybe much time. Maybe from my side, a bit more from Katie. You talk a bit, and also Florida mentioned the mothers and such getting inputs from their side, and overall maybe a bit that you would like to share on that. Because I think, yes, I think sometimes we have certain groups that are a bit forgotten whenever there is information collected, especially maybe digitally. We can talk about older people because when we collect online, it's harder for them to give their input. But also I think mothers, it's another collective that maybe sometimes is forgotten when we collect information for projects, etc. So anything you would like to share on that, on how during the project you collected information and how you made sure that it was indeed inclusive and you took into account all of these characteristics from different groups?
Yes, so it's a very good question, and I have a few different answers.
Good.
The first, or the more general thing I would like to say is that within the project, we also had a few different sessions with the project partners to kind of think about how we could find participants to take part in the surveys that we were doing, in the co-creation groups, in the communities of practice, because we do understand, and we would like to stress that, you know, when you approach different people, you don't always need to approach them in the same way, especially when you're talking about digital inclusivity. Again, people might not have access to a smartphone, they might not have different tools available to them, so you want to meet them where they are. And that also meant that for some of the pilots, when we wanted to engage with different groups, we really worked with local stakeholders or other groups that were regularly working with these people. So for example, in the Berlin pilot, where we were working with mothers, working with women, we were working with a local organization to get participants that way. So we did have to tailor our approach, depending on the context, of course, to involve more people that way.
Great, thank you. Very good answers overall. I think Deborah has her hand up, so I will give her the floor. Yes, please, Deborah, go ahead.
Yes, I would like actually to ask a question about the project, because there are like different projects that are cooperating a lot together, and especially on the communication ground. And I wanted actually to realize and to ask you what was, for example, because now we saw the communication towards, let's say, the stakeholder or the users. But among the different projects, how you managed to do this collaboration, and what do you think it was, for example, a challenge that a project faced that then helped and maybe realized to find a solution that then was useful for other projects? And about inclusive spaces, this is my question as well. What are the challenges you encountered during your project, the previous project, that now can be useful in the communication for inclusive space?
Okay. Maybe Florida, you want to try first?
Okay. I don't know if I understood well the question because at the beginning was a little bit low, but I will try to answer to what I understood. Yeah, actually, I think that we solve challenge. We find drivers in the previous project, like I said, in transport equity cost action, in INDIMO, especially in INDIMO and MARES. MARES was a very challenging project, actually, because when you construct things, the complexity is much more than when you think about. And when you go out from the research settlement, already the things are much more complex. And then when you need to construct physically, the things are even more complex. So this is a little bit the idea. But what we learned there was very important for dealing with some additional challenge. We started working with the people with disabilities, with the blind, with the blindness, or in a wheelchair, in an INDIMO project, or people in vulnerable situation like a single mom with the children. But we didn't work with at the same time with offer of with people who have company, who have disabilities, who have company, who are part of association that they have as well disabilities, and that they are really generous in putting in their knowledge, their experience, their way to solve the issues in mobility at the service of the project. And this happened in InclusiveSpace. So I think that we went directly to, on one side, to go deep and dive with people with all kinds of disability, including cognitive disability. For example, in the case of Madrid, we are working with people with lower cognitive understanding in some way, in a way with mental cognitive disabilities, and they are we are training them, and they are training us, actually, because this is what from the participation that we had in the community of practices in Madrid, we learned that we have learned much more than what we can offer in learning to them, and they will be our frontline accessibility person detector. They will work with this. I mean, their kind of disability, it's what is their privilege for providing us the right information on how the building needs to be really inclusive. I don't know if I answered to your question, but really, I think that this is an additional challenge that we add in InclusiveSpace, and I think that is as well the value added of InclusiveSpace. But maybe Miguel can.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, to add something to what Florida said and trying to answer Deborah's concern about communication, I would say communication is really important in the project. It's very, very important. It's maybe the most important thing in the project. So that needs a huge amount of money in the project. And this is very important because sometimes we create the project and we create the consortium and we create the work packages. And then at the very end, we start thinking about communication and we start talking or thinking about what we're going to do and put some money. But at the end in the project, in a lot of projects, the communication package is really small. So I think we we need to like give a big resource in the project, like a lot of people, a lot of months, and a lot of money in the project, so we can work with comfortable way. The other key aspect I would say we have to join, or we have to, let's say, involve all the partners in the communication. And that's why we can use all the network of the consortium in the communication. So we need to spread the communication through all the partnership and all the associations and members which are involved in the project. And this is a good option because each association has their own networks in their own countries or in their own cities, and we can be more, we can have more impact on the communication. And the third one, I would say, try to choose a key member in the consortium for the communication. For example, a municipality, it's a good option because the municipality has a big resource and has all the, I don't know, like for example, boards in the bus stops or in the public buildings or everywhere. So it has very huge power spreading our activities and our proposals. So I think it's money, people, and public administration involved in the communication, and think the communication from the very beginning. And this should work, in my experience.
Thank you, Miguel. Yes, very important 3 points that indeed will help with communicating results from projects, and that they will have more impact that way. On this, actually, and keeping you in the floor, Miguel, I wanted to kind of ask about the Mares project, and not just the communication to keep it alive, but also after the project, how can we keep these results that we have gathered, or in this case that were spaces and it was cooperatives, etc. How can we keep them alive after the money, in a sense, from the project funding is gone? How can we ensure that the projects keep on living without the original funding that made them happen? Any suggestions on that?
This is really a challenge because when the money is gone, it's hard to be alive. But I would say my experience once during we are developing a project, it comes to me like 100 ideas during the project to open new different options and ways to explore. For example, in InclusiveSpaces, there is a lot of things to think about it, and you can somehow identify new proposals for new, let's say, tenders or applications for the European level, but also for the local level. So I think for companies in the consortium, projects means to explore new spaces, new sectors, new territories where you can start thinking about new ideas and new proposals in order to innovate in those sectors. For entities, I think the project should have the time and the resources to give them the opportunity to emancipate from the project. For example, in the communities of practices, we can start the community of practices because we have people involved in those communities, like doing facilitate the dynamics. They organize the meetings, let's say the aspect that we're gonna talk. We join the people together. We provide them the space, the time, and the tools in order to get the baseline and to share the knowledge. But if the community of practice is well identified and is well worked during the project, maybe those people can be emancipate among the project, like go beyond the end of the project because they share a common interest in certain areas and they could join together beyond the project. So I think this European project, which is 2-3 years, is enough time to do that. And it's very satisfying when you meet people that still are alive and they get something from that project that ends maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago. So I mean, it's not all the money, but you have to think about it.
Great. Thank you, Miguel. I see, yes, Catherine, you are adding a bit on the first question. So thank you for that. So with that, I think we have 4 minutes left and I don't see other questions from the audience. So I would like to give then these 4 minutes back to everyone. Thank you for all for your participation, especially for the speakers. I have put in the chat quite a few things that you can check out, including also the newsletter for the Inclusive Spaces project, so that you can keep up and be updated on what we are doing. And with that, again, thank you and have a lovely Friday. And of course, enjoy the weekend because it's just around the corner today. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.